Yo, 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 what's up? It is August 27th, 2025. What is the deal? It is your boy. I'm so used to doing rapper drops. Like, it is your boy, Doc Knowledge here. Um, Back on Substack to talk about things that I can't talk about in the classroom, but things that I've been musing and ruminating about, right? And so over the weekend, I was really just perusing Twitter for, you know, the hell of it, right? Seeing just what was on there. I don't respond on there the way that I used to for obvious reasons. Clearly, just the way the platform has changed. But unlike some, I haven't completely deviated from the platform itself because I've found that trending topics happening in real time give me cause to pause to know what's going on in the world. And one of the things that I ran across over the weekend was this incident involving Raja Jackson, the son of UFC legend Rampage Jackson, Quinton Rampage Jackson. And this was at a Los Angeles wrestling event, not WWE, but like some more independent, lower level territory wrestling event that looked more like backyard brawling, just to be honest, um, that had a fight gone wrong. It was a window into sort of these unsettling dynamics of the cloud economy, right? When I'm thinking about social media platforms and the way in which people pursue attention, but not just how we pursue attention, but also how audiences gravitate towards content that can be at the means and extremes of sociality, meaning that we gravitate towards the grotesque, and we also gravitate towards those who are altruistic and um, starters of positive pro-social social movements. Um, but we do it equally. So both things get monetized. And when I talk about the cloud economy in my research, really what I'm saying is that we have a media system in today's environment that is very fragmented. We have a system where dysfunction is rewarded, violence can be monetized, sexuality can be wielded for capital gain, and audiences also can no longer really tell the difference between what is authentic performance and what is actually reality. What is clip farming, what is doing something for the gram, what is aura farming, as my son's generation tends to say. But here's what happened, right? During this wrestling storyline that was happening at this promotion in LA, Raja Jackson goes completely off script and brutally assaults another performer. And this attack was live streamed on a platform called Kick. And this attack was streamed in real time with minimal oversight. Viewers could watch in real time, sort of this stage spectacle, not knowing if it was totally real or fake, or if it was meant to happen in the way that it happened, um, and see in real time a crisis occur and not be dissolved. But the problem with it is that despite sort of, um, the folks at Kick sort of saying that they were going to, end their relationship with Roger Jackson for a minute and kind of like take him off of stream until this situation was resolved. Um, the fact of the matter is, this thing still goes viral. Within minutes, these clips are circulating, engagement is spiked. It's a trending topic on Twitter. That's how I found out about it. And the violence becomes a part of the narrative that brings even more attention to the assailant. And this isn't an isolated case, right? It really reflects this cultural shift where clout chasing or the pursuit of fame can become a dominant logic. And originally, this term was brought to bear, at least in my eyes, through hip hop music. But I look at clout chasing or just digital clout more simpler as being the currency of digital culture. And with live streaming, Twitch or Kick, these aren't just hosting these limited stage performances, they're incentivizing reality, or the spectacle of reality, or what we believe to be reality, in ways that is like reality TV on steroids. It incentivizes the extreme, the outrageous, the unhinged, the dysfunctional. um, it encourages the production of these behaviors to generate clicks, which is sort of what we mean when we say clip farming. Like you have these 3 hour, 4 to 5 hour, some cases 24-hour streams, but then you need to have these moments where audiences can consume a spectacle on multiple platforms. And so seeing someone like Roger Jackson crash out on stream, his pain then becomes remixed, memed, and monetized. His mental health struggles are reframed as entertainment. Parasocial relationships with his family, particularly his father, create the illusion of intimacy without the responsibility for care. In this way, I think that the digital media landscape, particularly the cloud economy and creator culture, it desensitizes us to see breakdowns not as tragedies but as viral moments that we can critique without using actual humanity in these critiques. And this raises like some real urgent questions about media literacy, especially when I'm thinking not just even about my son but about like generation alpha. And if young people are growing up in a world where every single thing is content, and the way we go about judging and evaluating content is on how it can pull in audiences, and if the names and the rules of the games um, really depend on the grotesque, how can they learn to distinguish between a quality scripted performance and breaking sort of these moral laws where we actually don't praise actual acts of violence? How can they not learn to see dysfunction as authenticity but as exploitation? My research argues that media literacy cannot teach just technical skills, but it has to help, the everyday communication and interrogation of ethics that young people have to deal with as they develop every single day, especially in those teenage years. But finally, like platforms have to be held more accountable. Ruha Benjamin has always talked about this idea that we call these certain platforms tech companies, and in doing so, we sort of absolve them of the fact that they really are media companies. And just because they provide the piping, right? Um, they're also facilitating the distribution of the media, but they often have this hands-off approach that gives us this idea that users are almost, it's even high-level users or power users or influencers, they're simply just contracted workers um, who are using the software or using the platform, using the technology. Um, but platforms have to be held more accountable for what they broadcast, what they amplify, what they um, sort of recommend to audiences. And this isn't the first time that there's been like a platform that's thrived off of spectacle or thriving off outrage or thriving off something that is seen as deviant or really exploiting those who live at the margins and would do anything to sort of survive and monetize themselves. um, until we reckon with the role of the platform, I feel like incidents like what we just seen with Roger Jackson will not be accidents. They will just be inevitabilities. And when I say the cloud economy has redefined the value of human behavior, it tells us that just to be visible is to be valuable. Even if that visibility comes with harm, even if it seems to come with infamy or shame, or um, it seems to come with lack of integrity. I think what this situation in particular gives us is that Roger Jackson's assault forces us to confront like this difficult truth that if dysfunction pays, how are we building a culture, or are we just cashing in on collapse? In fight culture, joking about bail money, right? It feels like bravado. It's a way of like telegraphing um that someone is too wild to be contained. And it's funny because at one point, Rampage Jackson talks about his kids online. I've seen this clip because it shows up again now that this incident has occurred. But I had saw it when he originally posted this, where he said that he had children that he knew he had to save up his money for their college fund, so that when it was time for them to go to college, he could pay for it. And mentioned his son Roger, and the thing that he said about his son Roger is, I know that he ain't going to college, so the money that I save for him, that's his bail fund, right? And in a tragic irony, you know, his words have become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think, it also ties to these dynamics of cloud chasing, because Rampage himself has been outrageous and he's monetized himself, even though, he's very skilled as a mixed martial artist. His popularity and his celebrity is not just from, him being a great fighter. It's always been how he has acted in interviews, how he has used this Rampage persona, wearing a dog chain, you know, smashing cars, um, street racing, sort of having incidents with police, arguments with fight promoters, television producers. This has been always attractive to audiences. He's pulled in pay-per-view numbers since day one. And so when he frames his son's trajectory in that way, where he almost seems proud that he has to save bail money for his kid because it's more realistic than him having a college tuition, it shows how deeply dysfunction can be normalized into sort of like a family's brand. Um, this idea of black masculinity and the projection of physicality being, what is the hallmark of being a black man. It shows humor, it shows bravado, it shows patriarchy, but it also shows toxicity. And in this instance, it's ironic because it shows how this dysfunctional logic can be passed down. He saw his father succeed using some of the same, off-brand, off-kilter antics. He saw his father succeed, kind of being um, aggressive and having sort of this no rules mentality about how he moves through the world. And so when we're talking about viral clips, platform bans, or even possible felony charges, we're not necessarily as a society unchecking these spectacles, because these spectacles are reshaping public media culture. They're reshaping sort of how we view media content, and the idea that the logics of social media have changed what we come to expect, and we're desensitized to these extremes. And so in a world where virality is worth more than degrees, and parents and children recalibrate their hopes accordingly, does that happen? This is where I look at the cloud economy as being like this devaluation of, quality content, and the elevation of things that are grotesque, and not just in how these things tend to entertain audience, but how it lowers the horizon of what those generations after come to believe should be produced, or what is possible to be produced. These are all questions that I've been considering, ruminating as I think about this. And, while I don't necessarily have all the answers, I think these questions need to be considered, because every other day something happens that is spectacular on the internet, and it spreads and it brings infamy. But infamy in this cloud economy brings more opportunity. And what does that then say about who we are? And also, what does that say about the platforms that amplify them? I'm not totally sure. But this idea of dysfunction paying is one thing that I've really been ruminating on for the past couple of days. And I just wanted to get on here just to share that, because as obscure and as random as this incident was, it shows and proves that time and time again, the way to sort of break through the noise is also proximity to legacy media fame. But, or I'll say it still is proximity to legacy media fame, but it also is taking that and sort of manipulating audiences to look at a spectacle that may not have ethics of care within it. And so yeah, that's I'm not gonna rant too long, but I just wanted to share that. And please feel free to share your opinion with me in the comment section, or feel free to just shoot me a line on Twitter, right? About what you thought of this video. But yeah, I just was kind of freaked out by this incident where uh, a wrestler is almost beaten to death on stream, and yet we're not really sensitized to think about the humanity of the situation. We're kind of looking at it from a celebrity point of view. Um, yeah. But signing off, August 27th, another day, office hours, knocked out, Dr. Knowledge. Peace.